and thus ended the tale of the princess who was never meant to be. So, anyone up for some squidding pasta?
Yep, it's Doujinshi time again with a Princess Precure book written by someone named Hamu, or Zoku-san, on their Pixiv page. Now, I would show off some of their work, but I'm pretty sure we'd get into all kinds of trouble if we did. Thank God Agha is at least legal.
And yes, even this book has some raunchier stuff. I mean, just look at where my hand is. I am so going to jail one day.
But yeah, spicier content aside, this person is one of my favorite Precure Doujinshi authors for just their beautiful art style and some of their outside tastes. Yeah, as the intro hinted at, this person also seems to be a bit of a Jojo fan, which given some of the recent seasons, seems to be all too appropriate. As a result, they also have a great sense of humor in their books, as they just let loose when it comes to portraying these characters in more bizarre and satirical ways, which is the kind of fan manga I really eat up.
Now, originally, we were planning on reviewing this Hirugar Sky and Deep Z parody book where Sora and Mashiro are actually doing the fusion dance, especially after some really stupid Gogeta memes started to become a thing.
But one, we usually like to let a book sell first so that everyone can enjoy it and the original author can get their proper dues. And two, this one was just a lot more entertaining, I'll say that much.
We will cover this book one day, but for now, let's take a look at Makuai no Princess and see how many JoJo references we can find and make.
The cover features a really nicely drawn Haruka in an awkward singing position that again can't show too much of. Nonetheless, she still looks really good, unlike Aroma and his overly dilated eyes and huge head.
I bring you love.
The title of this book literally translates out to the Princess of Interludes, which, as we'll see, seems to refer to those little in-between moments where certain things could happen that we're just unaware of.
In other words, it's an excuse to flanderize these characters, as they can make the argument that we simply didn't see this side to them is all.
And we get right into it, with Yui giving Haruka a tour of Noble Academy and arriving at the dance hall just like in episode 1. Things mostly played out just like they did in the actual show, though with the Utena factor amped up when our lead Pink started fantasizing dancing in the hall with Yui. However, while she was stuck in her delusions, she got a sudden glow up that Yui quickly noticed. This resulted in Four Eyes just having the slightest of awakenings, which couldn't have come at the worst of times, as the narrator felt it appropriate to point out that she was going through puberty.
Well, at least she hasn't given up her humanity yet.
Speaking of which, we then skip to the moment when Close tried to steal her dreams, though in this version of events, she had two different goals. One was the usual picture book stuff, and the other was cosplaying as hentai comment while screeching Yuri.
Get it? Because it's like Uri, but you just add a Y to begin to turn it into you get it.
But yeah, try to guess which dream the Zetsuborg opted for. We then moved into the scene of Close trying to egg Haruka into admitting what her dream was, and she was too embarrassed to admit it, which seemed to draw a little too much pleasure out of the baddie, to the point they started to turn into a creepier version of Okoyasu. And just like in the show proper, his teasing of Haruka would ironically lead to one of his biggest downfalls. Things again started to play out just like in the show, with Haruka violently pushing the picture book Zetsuborg away from a tiny little flower, which, now that I think about it, could have been seen as a JoJo reference in of itself. And again, really good artwork here, even for this brief action panel, with effective usage of speed lines. Though it might have been a little too much action, as after Aroma told her to come up with a catchphrase, Haruka posed, and she went into a full-on Jotaro speech.
All that's missing from this is that Mr. Bisumi, Oretsky, Scorp, or Fusion offered to come closer to her. Seriously, Takahito Koyasu must really love this franchise.
But yeah, like many actual Jotaro speeches that, when taken out of context, sound like pompous babbling, Haruka's words sounded even more ridiculous, to the point the fairies rightfully requested a do-over. Also, for some reason, the to-be-continued meme appeared here, even though we're still really early into this book. I mean, just imagine randomly cut away to something else at a time like this. We then, of course, got the introduction of Minami, who literally got the floweriest of introductions. Seriously, did Mikurin draw part of this page? Though, to Hamu Hamu's credit, they did draw her very nicely. Maybe a little too good, as her glimmer alone gave her fangirls nosebleed geysers. Funniest part of all of this was Minami's reaction, in which she outright stated that this was, unsurprisingly, not the first time. I mean, again, just look at how she's drawn. And it wouldn't be the last for that day, as she managed to score a combo kill. It was both a little tragic with her own fangirls repelling her for their own health, but really, mostly hilarious, especially with this narration that I swear I want to hear be read by the narrator of Kaguya-sama. But yeah, she had come to actually hate the labels that had been placed on her, and couldn't even imagine someone who would want to call themselves perfect, like Robo Miki here. Get it? Because she kind of turned into a Gundam at the end of her series, huh? But yeah, understandably, she did crave any kind of camaraderie, which was handed to her on a silver platter with the events of the second episode, when she interacted with Haruka, leading to the latter eventually asking for ballet lessons from her.
And again, who stated these sorts of thoughts didn't enter into Minami's head at least just a little?
And thus, their lessons began with all sorts of, stretching. Seriously, really should have figured that Minami was a contortionist. And of course, the events of the second episode still played out for the most part as usual, though Minami managed to see Haruka's transformation from a different angle. And of course, she figured out that she could become a Precure too, though her motivations here were a little more NSFW. Seriously, I really can't show what she's fantasizing here. You can fill in the blanks. She transformed, and kind of surprisingly, Puff managed to notice that her entrance sounded just a little bit rehearsed. Yeah, this little puppy has been on the ball throughout this book, and I'd actually like to see more of her, which we got right in the next page. Entering into the events of the third episode, Haruka decided to train Puff into a respectable pet in order to gain favor with Kisaragi. They practice some of the standard dog tricks, like hand, and that one thing you might have seen in both Lucky Star and again Kaguya-sama that could be mistaken for a certain appendage.
But come on, just because a word sounds like something else, doesn't mean we have to reduce ourselves down to some dirty jokes and I like to turn myself in.
Yeah, not too surprisingly, their little act didn't exactly win Kisaragi over, and in fact, she called Puff too erotic, which Haruka tried to counter by pointing out how anyone who finds a dog to be raunchy is the weird one.
Girl, never go anywhere online. Then again, I guess we should just be happy that this dog didn't receive the full Jojo treatment, because otherwise, ew.
Finally, we reach Kiara's episodes, and I think we can guess who Hamu Hamu's favorite cure of the season was. Seriously, how much detail do you need to put into her dress?
Yes.
And for this parody, they upped her genre savviness that wasn't the show proper, and had her go full Deadpool by talking about freaking scene changes. As a result, clothes actually joined in as they discuss when the big bad is supposed to start coming down hard on the evil generals.
If only Hirogara could have followed this format.
The last segments of this book didn't follow any particular episodes, and instead we got even more fourth wall breaking, as our heroines actually discussed the crossover movie they were going to be in, Heart No Carnival, which we might cover in the future. Still need to find something to talk about alongside it to make sure it's not just a short and boring review where we just talk about how it's mostly a collection of AMVs. Anyway, amongst the cast listings, Kiara recognized one of her yellow predecessors who apparently was into some shady dealings. And if Minami's saying that it was a rich girl in charge of Zaibatsu Y wasn't a big enough hint, the next panel outright revealed it was Alice.
Honestly, I would be more surprised if she wasn't dealing on the black market.
This ended up reminding Kiara that one of her teammates was a member of the 1%er Club and decided to ask if she could become her Precure sponsor.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think Minami has that much stock in her parents' company. But if you don't mind some shadier routes, you could probably talk to this toad statue.
Later, Kia was off to her next gig, but before she left, she needed just a little motivation. Thus, she got a good hug in on Haruka, much to Minami's shock and likely jealousy. Of course, Kia being Kia suggested that the blue just do it herself, which of course our Mana Aida in training didn't mind at all. And again, I just gotta love this narrator for pointing out every little statistic, like how it took Minami the same amount of time to come to her decision as it takes for Gavin to transform. But whatever, she then went in for a nice little hug and bad touch, bad touch, bad touch! Yeah, kind of rightfully, our story ended with some less than favorable rumors spreading about Minami. However, we got one more extra page featuring the Happiness Charge team looking at the announcement for their successors. And of course, they played up the joke that really should have gotten more focus in Haruno Carnival, with Hime realizing that in spite of the title, she wasn't part of this new team. Her so-called friends really hammered this home, and to top it all off, she realized that she was now on par with a certain other meme cure, Rip Hime.
But yeah, that was Makuai no Princess, and oh boy, this was a ton of fun.
This is probably one of the funniest manga I own in my entire collection, partially because Hamu Hamu does understand the source material and the shows and genres it borrows from. Thus, it allows them to flanderize these characters, especially Minami, but in ways that do kind of tie back to the source material, which just makes it even funnier. Now granted, I don't think the actual show had this much Jojo, but hey, I won't complain about them referencing one of the greats. On that note, like Jojo, the art here was just beautiful, with a ton of detail and brilliant shading. I mean, this was a short book that cost me just as much as a regular manga, and yet I feel I got more than my money's worth for just this art. Not to mention, because it was so well drawn, it made the scenes where the characters completely losing it all the funnier, as they're juxtaposing this serious art style with stuff like you getting a good whiff of Haruka's undies. What else is there really to say other than this is great stuff, and I actually look forward to picking up more of this author's books, and maybe review more in the future. Again, I just hope YouTube is gentle with the censorship.
With that though, I guess we really should get back to the official stuff, so do look forward to part 3 of the Fatai reviews coming soon, and until then though, farewell for now my friends, and oh boy, looks like someone's a little upset that I didn't use quite enough of his memes. Okay, look dude, if you want to get something in, just throw something out right now.